All right, how's everyone doing? I am Rich CELENZA. Thanks for checking out the Rich CELENZA show. So I'm going to call this podcast, I think for sure, is Who Said You Can't Change? I've been running into people and just researching a lot of different stuff and paying attention to identity because I have a program where I try to help men with their identity. Mainly, I call it working from the outside in. And so many people get caught up with not wanting to change, okay, for some reason or another, but they don't realize they're constantly changing. You can't not change. If society is changing and the people around you are changing, I can assure you, you are changing. Not only that, you're physically changing, right? Every day you're changing. You may be getting in better shape, worse shape. I talk about this a lot. Your skin's changing, your teeth, your inside of your body. Everything is always evolving. And when it comes to relationships too, you hear people a lot of times saying, you changed. No, you changed. Or, all that type of shit. What is wrong with change? Here's the thing that people have to understand. If you are getting in a relationship, just bottom line, that person that you're with is going to change. Not only that, you are going to change. You're most likely going to change careers, jobs. If you have a child with this person or adopt a child, whatever you do, that's going to change your lifestyle. All these things. I'm just telling you right now, you may move. That's a change. All your environment, everything is always changing. And I understand because I have close friends that kind of hate change. They've born and raised same neighborhood, even buddies that have born and raised same homes, right? Same lifestyle, same kind of business their parents were in, or just same neighborhoods. Their kids go to the same schools they went to, and there is nothing wrong with that. God bless, that's how they feel. But they know they've changed. But if you're holding yourself back from changes, is what I should say, that's what you really got to start paying attention to because you're limiting yourself. I don't care what anybody says. And I get a lot of times you don't want to change because you don't want to change your identity. People are going to look at you differently, especially if you want to change your wardrobe, like things like that. If you want to change your hairstyle, right? Especially if you want to move or change your just whole different environment, or even change, a lot of people stay at shitty jobs, I believe, a lot of times, or do things for a long period of time, and they're miserable, but they're afraid of the change. Why? I have no idea. So they almost lock themselves into this prison, not only physically, but mentally. If you want to, change, you've got to change your behavior. You got to really change your mindset, which you probably already know. But, back to, I was somebody who was always kind of wanting to be something different than what everybody else was around me. I don't know where that comes from, but I did. Even throughout high school and stuff, I came and would stay with my father in Florida. Maybe because he's very flamboyant. Also, I have a mother that's very strong-willed, so she gave me, I think, the confidence to, even though she's kind of set in her ways with her religious beliefs and the neighborhood and I guess you could say the Italian culture or the Italian-American culture, that, she wanted something different for me. She wanted me to go, I think, to a certain degree, evolve and change, like just at times be like everybody else, but at the same time, I think she really enjoyed that I wasn't like anyone else, if that makes sense. And I just always felt like I was stuck, even if I was where I wanted to be, because I always wanted to change something up. And I really realized this throughout my life when I wrote my book, Wingman, about wardrobe and stuff. And, if you know anything or you know me, I don't like conforming into any environment, clothing-wise, kind of to a certain degree, because a lot of our clothing is a big identity, or it gives, shows you kind of who you are to a certain degree to people. Of course, it's not who you are entirely, but a lot of the way you dress and the way your hair is, the way you take care of yourself, the way you carry yourself entirely is a part of who you are, obviously. And when I was younger, again, back in high school, I dressed a lot like I was in Florida. And then when I was in Florida, I dressed a lot like I was in Chicago. I think it just gave me attention. But I knew, I grew up, my family was from Chicago, and then I was also living in the suburbs of Chicago. So I've discussed this before. When I was in the city, they would call me a suburb kid or a preppy kid. And then the suburbs, the preppy kids would call me a city kid, or like a greaseball as a joke, or an Italian kid, whatever you want to say. And I loved always changing up my wardrobe, and it affected me differently. And it didn't mean that I always dressed the way that I was in my environment. It was kind of the opposite, which was weird. So if I was around preppy kids, a lot of times I would dress like a city slicker kind of guy. And then when I was in the streets or whatever, I would dress kind of preppy to kind of throw it like on its head, because then I knew it would get me different type of attention. I didn't want to look like everybody else all the time. And then of course, other times I would dress according to wherever I was going. This wasn't always happening, but I always wanted to change. I felt like, and not only change, but change my wardrobe, change everything about how I was looking. And if you see me now, even to this day, one minute I could be in athleisure wear, the next day I'm in preppy clothes, next time I may be in a three-piece suit, next time it's a leather coat. If you watch any of my YouTube videos, I kind of go through the gamut of different things that I've looked or have gone through. And I like that. And I think if more people, again, I'm not telling you to go do that, but if a lot of people looked at change as being good a lot of times, I think it would have a whole different they would have a whole different perspective on life. They really would. I think things are always coming up in our heads. We're just afraid to do them. It could even be like, you know what? See, I don't like Indian food, but say you never had it. And I tested it, so I don't like it. But you may be like, you know what? I never had Indian food. I heard it's, curry or whatever this and that. Forget it. You never tried it. Go try it, man. You may like that better than what you're eating now. That could go for anything that comes in your head. It could be shopping somewhere like, hey, I want to go here. I want to try this. Or, hey, I want to try a different career. Again, you don't have to quit everything you're doing necessarily, but maybe a change is what is truly needed in your life more than anything else. Or at the very least, thinking that maybe change is good and testing different things. And I have to do this again as well. I kind of exposed myself lately. And, I loved traveling and doing all these different things because I was always experimenting, going to different places. Then I got back home and I was talking about, hey, I'm kind of in a rut at home during Corona and pandemic. I'm not traveling as much. So, hey, I'm going to become a tourist in my own town, which is hilarious because I thought I did everything, but I didn't. And what's really interesting is I live in Orlando, Florida. So I live in the tourist capital of the world. So I was experimenting and trying, again, all new restaurants again, coffee houses, still doing that. Experimenting just with a lot of other things. But when it came to my social media and kind of figuring out what am I going to do with all this, because I keep doing the same thing over and over again. And of course, I'm actually doing pretty well with it as far as my YouTube channel is definitely growing. My podcast is growing. I don't focus enough on Facebook or Instagram, which I need to do. And that's a perfect example. I need to change that. But I'm always kind of like, whatever I feel like doing, I'll do. But even when I know I need to make certain changes, I either become lazy or I talk myself out of it. But I know things are changing. If I want to succeed at certain things, I'm going to have to change. If not, I'm going to fall in a rut and I'm going to become a dinosaur, like a lot of other people out there. And, I just thought I would bring this up. And what's funny is, you look at the history of society or whatever, even wealthy people that kind of got stuck. And I think we went through this with my father's business that, we did electronic dartboards and leagues in the vending business. And then a new style game came out where you don't have to, when you run a league, you didn't have to do it by hand. Kind of like what bowling was originally. You had to keep your own score. I don't know if you knew that. I may be dating myself, but originally when you went bowling, you kept your own score. You had to learn how to do it. It wasn't just adding pins, because if you got a spare or a strike, it changed the dynamic. But then obviously electronic bowling started, or electronic scoring on bowling, and it makes it simple. It does everything for you. All you got to do is throw the ball down. Same with darts. And we never really updated the dart equipment as quickly as we should have, I think. And we kind of fell behind, and then other competitors came in, and that happens with a lot of companies, I think, and people, where you just become outdated. It could be even the way you're doing things at work or the way you're doing things in your business. But again, there may be a change that needs to happen to help you succeed, because if you don't, you may fail, you may lose everything. And a lot of people don't look at that. But if you look at some of the wealthiest people from, one generation to the next, the ones that kind of got stuck in a rut. Now, I'm not saying they didn't make a lot of money for their time, and they're still not making a lot of money. But you see how other people kind of came in and changed the whole dynamic and really turned it on its head and made it either better or figured out ways how to make more money, because a lot of things really are very similar, right? They are. I mean, you could even take a car, for instance. What is one company doing that is becoming more superior over another? If you look at that, and I once read, what was it, a magazine on, was it Ford or Chevy? One of them, I think it was Ford. How, when they were doing different things with cars, how just in business in general, how two winners, if you buy a company or you're running a company or you're doing something, two winners a lot of times makes a winner. A winner-loser does not make a winner. Usually makes a loser, and two losers always make a loser. And, it was just something I think about a lot regarding my own life. I have to make changes, but the changes got to be winning changes. I can't keep making shittier changes if I do make those changes. So that's just something I think about when creating something, because a lot of times I'll create something, I think it's going to be successful, and it's a loser. And I'll be like, oh, that was a loser, but the reason I lost in there, let me switch it around and do it here. I create something else again, and it's another loser. I'm like, well, didn't I learn the first time that if I was going to change, I had to pay attention to make sure that the change was much different, but it kind of wasn't. It was kind of the same thing. So anyways, I'm going to wrap it up there, but please don't be afraid to change at times. And if people say, hey, you've changed, I look at it and say, thank you. A lot of people will be like, no, I didn't. I hope I'm changing. I hope I'm evolving. I hope I'm learning more. If I'm not changing, most likely I'm stuck. What is that going to do for me? I don't understand that. But all right, if you get a chance, check out my YouTube channel, Rich CELENZA. You can find all my stuff on richcelenza.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You got any questions regarding anything, especially with identity, I try to help out. I'm not the guy who's going to change it internally. I'm definitely not a psychiatrist. But I do try to help people from the outside in. That's what I call it. And definitely, I think there's tons of dudes out there that want to, and women, that want to change their identity. And they may want to change the way they look. They may want to change just their lifestyle in general. And it doesn't always take millions of dollars to do it. And also, if you are looking to lose weight or gain muscle, that's going to take a substantial amount of time, or a certain amount of time, most likely. But it can be done. Don't be afraid to change again, man. And, it could be even quit smoking. I talk about this. A lot of people's identity wraps up with other people. And if you work with a bunch of smokers and you're like, man, I'd like to, quit smoking and change that up a little bit. But you kind of like going out and having a smoke with your friends, I get it. That just goes for in general. Hanging with people, when you do want to make changes, it is going to affect your relationships, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. But it just may be time. But you don't have to also, back to your friends smoking, that doesn't mean you can't go out and have a great time with them or just stand next to them while they smoke. You don't have to smoke. It could be drinking. If you have a drinking problem, your friends all still like to drink. For the most part, for, 20, 30 years, I had drinks here and there, but most of the time I never drank. And I was constantly in nightclubs and bars. So it's kind of bullshit. You can enjoy yourself and still change is basically what I'm saying. All right, take care, and I wish you nothing but the best.